Wow, this material on hexagrams 11 and 12 is really something.
From Jordan's book, right?
Yeah.
Hexagram 11 is pretty striking, you know? Earth above the sky. You don't see that every day.
No, not really.
But then, hexagram 11 with the Earth over sky, it's like a different way of looking at things. Jordan's suggesting moving towards peace by accepting that things change, that nothing stays the same.
Impermanence.
Exactly.
Makes me think of that whole Bardo thing from Jordan's modified Kabbalah tree of life.
It's all connected. The bardo, that state of pure potential, it's often associated with a quiet mind, a sense of peace. And you get that by letting go.
So it's about embracing the unknown, not fearing it.
Right. And that's where Jordan's levels of happiness come into play. You know, level 1, where we're all about prioritizing personal happiness. Well, it can actually be a roadblock to real peace.
Because we get so caught up in our own wants and fears.
Exactly. We get stuck in this, what Jordan calls grip and grasp, trying to hold on to order in a world that's constantly shifting.
So wanting things to stay the same, that's what actually creates the obstacles.
Exactly. And then because we're clinging to that level 1 mentality, we see the bardo as a threat, something to fear.
But if we can shift to level 2 or 3, finding peace by accepting things, even wishing happiness for others, that changes our relationship with the bardo.
Absolutely. Instead of a persecutor, it becomes a force for good,
Yeah.
helping things fall apart so new things can emerge.
Like a compost heap. Things decompose, but then new life grows from it.
Perfect analogy. But see, our minds are wired for order. We crave permanence, even though deep down we know it doesn't exist.
Except for death, maybe.
Well, yeah, I guess in a way. But how do we get over that fear of impermanence, especially when it comes to something as vast as the bardo? Jordan talks about the impartial witness and the ideal parental figure, like archetypes watching how we respond to life's challenges. The impartial witness just observes, no judgment, while the ideal parental figure offers guidance.
So like internal guides helping us navigate between clinging to our own happiness and embracing the bardo.
Exactly. And they highlight how different our responses can be, you know? Do we react with fear or with acceptance?
This is where these hexagrams really start to get interesting. It's not just fortune telling, it's a deep dive into what it means to be human.
And the more you look, the more connections you find.
But don't we need some order to survive? We can't just let everything fall apart, can we?
Of course not. Structure, systems, boundaries, those are important. But the key is finding that balance between order and chaos, between holding on and letting go.
This whole grip and grasp thing, yeah, it really captures that struggle, doesn't it? Trying to keep things under control when everything's always changing.
It's that level 1 mentality in a nutshell. Personal happiness above all else, even if it means sacrificing our peace of mind.
It's like building a sandcastle, knowing the tide is coming in. But instead of enjoying the sandcastle, we're just worried about it getting washed away.
And all that worrying, that controlling, it just creates more suffering. We become prisoners of our own desires.
So how do we break free? How do we learn to let go and just go with the flow?
That's the million-dollar question. But maybe thinking about those skulls on the monks' desks can give us a clue.
Skulls on desks. That's a little morbid, don't you think?
Maybe, but in a lot of spiritual traditions, skulls are reminders of impermanence. Everything is fleeting, even our own bodies.
So it's like a visual cue to let go of attachment.
To be present, to accept that nothing lasts forever.
And in that letting go, in surrendering to the flow of life, that's where we find peace. The peace hexagram 11 points towards.
Exactly.
I'm still thinking about those skulls. It's a powerful image.
It is, isn't it? Not your typical office decor.
Definitely not. But there's a real depth to it. A reminder that everything changes.
Everything's in flux. Our possessions, our achievements, even who we think we are.
Yeah, all those attachments we cling to.
And by contemplating that impermanence, we can start to let go a bit. Detach from those things that ultimately don't really define us.
But letting go, surrendering to the bardo, it's not about giving up on life, is it?
Not at all. It's about embracing life more fully, being present, appreciating each moment. When we let go of those rigid expectations and attachments, it opens up space for new things to emerge, for growth, for transformation.
Makes me think about that yin and yang thing again.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about it earlier, but I feel like we could go deeper. Those opposing forces.
Right. Yin and yang, they're always interacting, constantly in motion, flowing into each other, transforming. It's a dance.
And are we, with our fear of the bardo, are we out of balance? Too much yang, not enough yin.
That's a good way to put it. We get so focused on order, on control, on achievement, that we block that receptive energy, the yin.
The surrender, the acceptance.
Exactly. The things that help us move through change with a little more grace, a little less struggle.
So it's not about getting rid of yang completely.
No, no. We need both. Yang gives us structure, drive, momentum, but yin brings flexibility, adaptability, the ability to let go, to go with the flow.
To ride the waves, so to speak.
Exactly. But how do you cultivate that yin energy in a world that's so yang-driven?
It's true. It's all about achieving, producing, constantly striving.
Well, there are things you can do. Meditation, spending time in nature, cultivating gratitude. These can help us tap into that receptive, nurturing energy.
Okay, that makes sense. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around how this all plays out in real life, like in our relationships, for instance.
Relationships. They can be a source of so much joy, but also a lot of suffering.
Because we want things to be permanent. We resist change.
And people change. It's inevitable.
We expect them to stay the same, to fulfill certain roles, to meet our needs in very specific ways, and then when they don't, we get upset, disappointed, even feel betrayed or abandoned.
It happens all the time. But if we can remember those principles of impermanence, we can approach relationships differently, with more compassion, more understanding.
So instead of trying to control how the relationship unfolds, we focus on appreciating what it is right now.
On being present, letting go of the need to define it, label it, put it in a box,
Just let it be what it is.
and trust that whatever form it takes, it's serving its purpose.
That's a pretty big shift in perspective. It takes a lot of trust, not just in the other person, but in life itself.
It does. But that trust is what allows for real intimacy with ourselves and with others.
This is really making me think. I'm starting to see things in a whole new light. So how do we actually, live this stuff, make it real?
Right. It's one thing to talk about the bardo and yin and yang and letting go and all that.
Yeah, but how do we actually do it day to day?
Well, mindfulness is a good place to start.
Mindfulness. Everyone's always talking about mindfulness.
It is a bit of a buzzword.
But what does it actually mean?
Basically, it's about paying attention to what's happening right now, your thoughts, feelings, sensations, but without judging them.
So not like emptying your mind or anything.
No, it's more about noticing what's going on inside without getting, carried away by it.
Okay, so give me an example.
Sure. Imagine you're stuck in traffic. You start to feel that frustration building.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling.
Instead of letting it take over, you just notice it. Feel that tightness in your chest, maybe your jaw clenches, your breathing gets faster.
So I'm not trying to fight it or anything, just noticing it.
Exactly. Just observe those sensations. You create a little space between you and the emotion.
So I'm not, totally consumed by it.
Right. And if you do this regularly, you start to see how everything's always changing. Thoughts come and go, feelings change, sensations arise and disappear.
Is that impermanence thing again?
Exactly. And as you get used to seeing that in your own mind, your grip loosens a bit.
That jag reflex.
Yeah. You realize that holding on to a specific feeling or outcome, well, it's kind of pointless.
Because it's all temporary anyway.
Right. Resisting the flow of life, that's what causes suffering. Surrender is where you find freedom.
Makes me think about how we get stuck in our relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Wanting them to be a certain way and then getting upset when they're not.
It's so common.
So this mindfulness thing, can it help with that?
Absolutely. Just try being present when you're with someone. Really listen to them. Put your phone away. No multitasking.
Easier said than done sometimes.
It does take practice. But the more present you are, the deeper the connection can become.
Yeah, you can get beyond the surface stuff.
Exactly. More understanding, more empathy.
This is really helpful. I'm starting to see how powerful these ideas can be.
It's a whole different way of being in the world.
More peaceful.
Yeah, and more accepting of ourselves, of others, of just how things are.
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all this with me and with our listeners.
My pleasure. It's been a great conversation.
And for everyone listening, I hope this has given you some food for thought. Keep exploring these ideas. The journey's just beginning.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing process.
Be kind to yourselves, stay curious, and embrace the ride. That's all for this deep dive. See you next time. to our everyday lives.
That's where it gets real, right? He
Yeah.
doesn't just, leave us hanging with these big ideas. He actually gives us really concrete steps.
Give me some tangible things. Like,
Yeah.
what can we actually do to put this into practice?
Well, remember that self-reflection piece we were talking about earlier?
Yeah.
Jordan really encourages making that a regular practice,
Okay.
like carving out time to
Mhm.
really examine your thoughts,
Right.
your emotions,
Yeah.
even those knee-jerk reactions we all have,
Yeah.
and just ask yourself, why did I respond that way?
Hmm.
What pattern is influencing my choice here?
Yeah, it's like you become this inner detective,
Yeah,
uncovering the hidden motives behind your actions.
exactly. And that awareness,
Right.
it's so powerful. It's the key to making different choices.
Right.
Another practice he recommends is
Okay, tell me.
mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Back for round 2.
I know, right?
I'm still a little fuzzy on how this connects to treading.
Okay, well, think of mindfulness as just paying attention to the present moment
Mhm.
without judgment.
Right.
So in this context,
Of treading.
yeah, it's about becoming more aware of your internal state.
Okay.
What's happening around you.
Yeah.
Even how your actions are affecting the people around you.
Okay.
It's about slowing down,
Mm-hmm.
tuning in,
Yeah.
and really noticing.
Noticing.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's less about like emptying your mind
Yeah.
and more about just becoming present in
Exactly.
your life in each moment.
Yeah. Being present.
But full disclosure, I really struggle with that.
Oh, me too.
My mind is like a hamster wheel, just constantly going.
Oh, I know.
That treading mindfully,
Yeah.
it's not just about our outward actions.
Right.
It's about taking care of our internal state too.
Exactly. Making sure you're coming from a place of wholeness. Our inner world and our outer world,
Yeah.
totally interconnected.
Yeah.
And when you take care of yourself,
Yeah.
you're so much better equipped to handle whatever life throws at you
Okay.
and make choices that really reflect your true self.
Wow. This has been such a rich conversation.
It has.
It feels like a roadmap for a more conscious and fulfilling life.
It really does.
And remember,
Yes.
it's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly.
There will be times
Yeah.
when we're off balance, when we react impulsively,
It's all a word.
when we forget to tread mindfully.
Yes, but that's okay.
Right. It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. The key is to keep practicing, keep learning,
Yeah.
and keep moving forward with that awareness and compassion.
Those are words to live by. Thank you so much for taking us on this journey through Hexagram 10.
It's been my pleasure.
I'm leaving with such a different perspective
Ugh.
on how I want to move through the world.
Well, as we wrap up our time with Hexagram 10, I want to leave our listeners with a question to think about.
Okay.
Knowing what you now know about all of these influences on your behavior,
Yeah.
how can you tread more mindfully in your relationships and in your pursuits?
Mhm.
What small steps can you take today to bring more awareness and
Yeah.
intention into your life?
I love that. Keep exploring.
Keep reflecting.
And until next time, happy treading.
Happy treading.